Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville Citizen Night and Council Work Session. Today is Thursday, February 5th, 2015, approximately 7 p.m. If we'd all rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and glory forever. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I've got to grab the list to see who signed in first.
Your mouth advises you.
I don't know. See that? I like calendar. I like calendar. Good to know what day it is in America. It's 20 bucks. Should I sign it?
Well, obviously, nobody signed in, but the floor is still open for any resident that would like to address council. It is certainly your time to do that. Seeing nobody approaching, we'll close that portion of our meeting and we'll go into our council work session. And council, if you'll take a look at the special council meeting of December 19th, 2014, and the regular council meeting of January 13th, 2015, are there any corrections or additions? Seeing none, we'll move over down to our reports of our tax collections. Once again, council, any questions or comments?
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
God bless.
Seeing none, moving over to payroll report. Any issues with our payroll report, council? Over to our list of bills and budget transfers. And we'll start off with you, Linda. Any issues today?
No, sir.
None?
None.
Jim?
Sorry, none.
Paul?
No, sir.
Steve?
I have none.
Thank you.
And
Nothing.
very good. Oh, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Griesok is running a couple of minutes late. He will be here, so be
Miss it.
Sorry?
You might miss it.
Oh, well. Oh, well.
Gary, thank you. I like that.
Okay, moving over to our new business. If you would, Mr. Little, please.
Okay, items, council, items 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are all the same. They are Mon Malt Partners. This is the Panda Express. Item 1 is the conditional use approval, and I'll just paraphrase on each of these. To construct, item 1, to construct a 2,313 square foot drive-through restaurant. Item number 2 is a conditional use to construct the 2,313 square foot Panda drive-through restaurant and associated site amenities. Item 3 is the same item. These are all tabled, and item 4 is the same. The applicant, their attorney has given you a letter, which is in your packet, to table this until the March 5th work session. So at the meeting on Tuesday night, a motion would be in order to table that. Item number 5 is a simple subdivision from Joshua and Jason Sturm, and we'd be looking for a motion to approve that this Tuesday.
And you might as well keep going with the motions then.
Okay, item B is a motion, these are 3 motions, obviously, for Tuesday evening's council meeting. A motion to place a quarter-page advertisement in the amount of $60 in the program for the Gateway High School musical West Side Story. And item 2 and 3 are resignations. One is Mr. Bell, Robert Bell, who's been on the zoning hearing board, is resigning from the zoning hearing board. My understanding is that he is moving. And item 3 is a motion to accept Richard LaPiccolo's resignation from the Monroeville Finance Authority.
Mr. Little, I have a question on number one, please. I would like to see the municipality at least raise the ante up to $90 minimum for the ad. And it's going to a good cause, and it's going to represent the municipality. I realize maybe the $150 is a little over the top, but the $90, I think, is very appropriate for the youngsters, or for the students.
For discussion purposes, does anybody on council have a comment to that? Okay, for the meeting on Tuesday night, I'll change the amount of $60 to $150.
Thank you.
Resolutions, it's the same thing as the conditional use in C in resolutions, the resolution adopting Monmouth Partners Panda Express planning module. That is a request for a tabling also.
Okay, then we'll move over to the reports of the municipal staff, and Tim, you've got quite a bit to do, so we're going to hold you to the last on the
Okay.
reports of the municipal staff. Bruce, any other?
No, I have nothing now.
And we'll go to you, Sean. Any other issues? Okay. Paul, if you'll do the CITF grant issue.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple here, only one's listed.
That's
The
fine.
first one is the CITF grant. The municipality was contacted that a possible CITF grant is possible by the, when's the deadline?
End of February.
End of February it is due. The CITF grant is similar to what we got money for doing the Minerva Boulevard Cruiser Drive project. It's a community infrastructure and tourism fund through the Allegheny County Economic Development. There are some eligibility factors that you have to meet, but looking through some of the capital improvement projects that we have on our list, Tim and I and Jamie Story have sort of come down to one project. The grant maximum is $200,000. The project that we're looking at doing is a storm sewer lining project over in the Garden City area between Snowball and Dahlia is actually where it starts and continues through Valley View, Dahlia, Garden City Drive, all the way to Evergreen Drive. It's about 871 feet of pipe. The reason that we're looking at that is after inspection of that segment of pipe last year, we noticed that it's in pretty bad shape. It's very deep. It's about 20 feet in depth. And if it needs replaced, it's going to, with a traditional excavation project, it'll be very difficult, very, very expensive, and it's under several roadway systems. So if council was interested in pursuing this, we'll probably have to put a resolution on the agenda for Tuesday, supporting it and using that project as one of the ideas.
I would certainly hope everybody's all good with that.
I don't see why we wouldn't be interested in that.
I'm very good with that.
Could we put that on the agenda, please?
Put it on the agenda, Tim.
All right, it'll be on the agenda then.
Any chance we can get it down Hawley Drive?
All right, the next thing. There is Duquesne Light has a program where you can replace the existing high-pressure sodium bulbs that are located in our streetlights with LED bulbs. The program has to be submitted by May 1st is the application deadline, so it's not something that we have to decide on tonight. But we can apply for up to 10 replacements. Some of the criteria is that they have to be 10 lights are all together in one system. The cost of it is $109 per bulb. So it'd be a cost to the municipality of about $1,090. Now, this program has gone into effect last year, and if not every community participates, at the end, there will actually be more that we could do if not everybody wants to participate in it. So last year, Mount Lebanon had replaced 100 streetlights last year because not everybody participated in it. So if council's interested in pursuing that, we will apply for that.
What's the advantage, Paul?
the municipality will pay less in electricity as we go through. You'll have brighter lights, number one, because LED is much brighter. Number two, you'll pay a lot less money in electricity, and they'll last for a longer period of time.
If a bulb goes out now, who replaces it?
Duquesne Light. Duquesne Light,
Will they replace these?
yes, that is their fee to replace the sodium
They
vapor
have to
lights
be
with LED
contiguous.
lights.
Sean, is there any way to do an ROI on that?
It'd be pretty tough based on the number of streetlights that we have, but just in general, I know that an LED light has significant savings over the bulbs that Paul was talking about. I mean, it really is a lot of the difference.
I actually have a
Council,
breakdown, we have a detailed breakdown I could email to you if you want to take a closer look at it. Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, council, everybody okay with maybe doing initially get involved in this?
Absolutely.
Oh, I
yes,
didn't hear
for
you, I'm
sure.
sorry.
And Paul, they currently, well, two questions.
Yes, sir.
The new intersection at Caruso plan, they have LED lights, I believe?
Yes, they do.
Okay, and then currently Duquesne Light, don't they charge us like $750 a month? I'm sorry, aren't they charging us per fixture?
Yes.
$55, I think.
Yes, and the
That won't
electricity we
change.
use now, it roughly comes out to 1,500 fixtures is what what we use.
It's about $55 a light, isn't it, Paul, something like that?
Let me see.
If I recall correctly, it was one thing we always hear is report it if they're not burning because we're paying for them if they're not lit.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say
But it's
that,
about
Jimmy. It's a
55
good time to
isn't it?
bring
Yeah,
that
it's
up.
something in that lines, Mayor.
But the new LED bulb doesn't change that set fee, does it? It's just the,
Well, you will reduce the wattage that you're using. So over a period of time, although, if you put 10 this year and then 10 next year, and then just keep doing it, eventually you're going to put in a lot of LED bulbs, which is going to drop your wattage. Duquesne Light doesn't like it because they're losing money.
Okay.
okay.
Any other issues for there, sir?
I have one other thing.
Sure.
Another grant opportunity. PennDOT has put out a Green Light Go funding. Basically, what it does is it's a 50/50 match with PennDOT. And again, they have a list of criteria. We've gone through the criteria, looked at our capital improvements, and looked at what we could do with this. One of the more important things, it has to be on a state-owned roadway. So that sort of limits us to what we would need to do. Looking at traffic signals that need to be replaced on state roads. The one that comes to light, no pun intended, is the one at Northern Pike and West Patty Lane. It's a signal that is very old and needs to be replaced. Now, it's a 50/50 match with this if it is granted. So that signal for design and replacement construction costs is about $200,000. So the municipality would have to put up $100,000 and get $100,000 in grants. This has to be turned in by February 27th, so if it's something council wants to pursue, I'd have to have a resolution for Tuesday's meeting also.
Can we find the funding on that?
Well, as we talked at our meeting, Jamie and Paul and I, I advise, my recommendation to council is to pass a motion, a resolution to go for the grant. The light is going to have to be replaced. So if we can get half of it paid for, and we're going to have to do it sometime in the next 5 years, let's say, then at least let's go for it. The money will come out of the capital improvement, the $1 million we put into the capital improvement fund each year. You have an opportunity like this, you should take advantage of it.
And my guess is this, by the time this is completed, it'll be a 2016 project.
I was going to say, is this money have to be used in the 15
No,
calendar
you just
year?
have, the funding period to apply is the end of this month, but I think by the time you go through the process with PennDOT and you actually do the design and construction, you're looking at a 2016 project.
Okay.
If not the tail end of 2015, but most likely 2016.
So we could look for that and put it in our budget and plan
Correct.
for it? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So if that's something the council wishes, I'll get a resolution together.
Okay, so we'll have two additional resolutions on the agenda for Tuesday evening, one for the Green Light grant and also for the CITF grant.
Okay, Tim, we're going to turn it over to you because you've got quite a bit, so
Okay,
turn it over to you.
yeah, at the mayor's, at the last council meeting on January the 13th, the mayor gave his State of the Municipality speech, and in that, the mayor asked, put out there a trial balloon for a blue ribbon committee or a service delivery review committee. Subsequently, I have given to council a three-page memo of what would entail a service delivery review committee. And just for the benefit of the public, what I'm going to do is just briefly for a minute go over some of the highlights of what that would be about. And the reason for doing this, a lot of times when you go into budget processes and you cut things from the budget, you're cutting figures, and you say to your department heads, cut 10%, cut 5% across the board out of your budget. Well, what you're doing is you're cutting services, and the people don't know what kind of services are being cut, nor even do the council members sometimes. So it's called cherry picking, and it's an easy way to cut things. But what a service delivery review committee would do is we're looking for, myself, the mayor, and the council, looking for what this community thinks about the services that are being delivered right now, as far as efficacy, as far as do we need them, we need more of them, do we need less of them? We don't need them at all. And I'm being a little bit over the top here, a little bit of egregious on that. So that's basically it in a nutshell, in a Reader's Digest version. Some of the ideas of achieving results. What questions would you be trying to answer through a service delivery review committee? And I'm not going to go through all the 10 that I gave the council, but do you really need to continue and provide the service or services that you are giving? How does the current performance compare to other municipalities? Do the activities logically lead to the expected outcomes? Or what we providing, is it providing, or the outcomes of what we're providing? For instance, a cost per resident. Is it achieving what other municipalities are paying and delivering? What are the alternative ways of delivering the service? So those are just a couple of the ideas of what a service delivery review committee would try to achieve. And ideally, this would be really, if you're really going to do this in depth, this would be a 2-year process, if not even longer, and a continual process. But in my memo I sent to council that at least some ideas should be put forth by, let's say, September 30th, before the 2016 budget. The process for that starts in August, but at least before it is presented to council, that some ideas would be forthcoming from the Service Delivery Review Committee. And there's a lot of misconceptions that elected officials and even people in the community, they don't understand about their services. I mean, you might have a Service Delivery Review Committee get together, and a member may say, well, recycling is too expensive. Let's quit recycling. Well, we have to, under the state law, since 1990, we have to recycle. Any community over 5,000 people in population, they have to recycle. And that may be a simplified form or question, but there's questions like that. A lot of people may not know what the police department does intrinsically, the public works department, in a lot of the departments, and in the cost and the just the amount of people and all the decision process that it takes to put those services into play. Now, I have given council, for instance, just a suggestion on who would be appointed to this committee. And I've given counsel from different disciplines, for instance, from finance, law, engineering, education, government, business, real estate, and you can pick a whole host of other ones. And these are just suggestions to council. Now, we have received here 4 people that are interested in being appointed to the Service Delivery Review Committee. And as I mentioned, this would take 1 to 2 years ideally, and it should be kind of a continual process. Initially, I've explained to council that this should be, at least for the first 9 months, should be a qualitative review. What's the perception of the community? Not so much a quantitative review, because that gets in more detail, it's more labor intensive, but there would obviously be the budget document that everybody would review, and other minor financial aspects to that. But getting into a real intense quantitative review would be kind of a second phase of a service delivery review committee. That's basically for the Service Delivery Review Committee that I've given to council and also explaining it to the public. Now, in talking with council about this, there's been, discussions with me and the mayor talking with individual council members, and there's other ways of doing this. The bottom line is what this council is looking for. They're looking for input from the community of what you think of the services that are being delivered. And again, as I said, what's being delivered, how it's being delivered, the cost of it, how efficient it's being. Do you want more of it? Do you want less of it? And sometimes elected bodies, just not this council, you go through the years and you think that these things should be delivered, whatever they may be. And you find out maybe that the community really doesn't care if you get this, that, or the other thing, or they want more of this. So that's what this is about. Another way of doing this, as a lot of communities have done, is doing it through a community survey. Now, you can have a community survey and a service delivery review committee and do it in conjunction. But if you do it that way, a survey should be done first. And I have contacted the University of Pittsburgh with people I know at the University of Pittsburgh, and I've given council an outline, and I contacted the University Center for Social and Urban Research. And they do this sort of thing, and they do it a lot less than a private company would do it. There's a whole host of private companies in the Pittsburgh area and nationally that do this kind of thing, marketing surveys, and they do it for a lot more money than somebody on a university scale would. I talked to Mr. Scott Beach. He's an assistant director at the University Center for Social Research. And I've given council an outline of what they do, what their experience is. And they have done this sort of thing for for different universities, the state, local governments, and other outside agencies. And in the outline I've given to council about the data collection methods that they would use, they could have all kind of different survey technologies. When I talk to Mr. Beach, they can do a telephone survey. They can do a mail survey, which is more of a conventional. They can actually do in-person surveys. Now, depending on if council wants to go in this direction, obviously doing a telephone survey would be more expensive than doing a mailing survey. Mailing survey is the most conventional way of doing it. Some communities have put surveys on their website. No matter which way you go, with whatever means you garner the information from the public, a service delivery review, the survey, there's pros and cons to each. So if you put it on the website, you can imagine statistics show that you're going to get more negative comments on a survey that's on a website. In most instances, people are going to go on that have something negative to say, more so than if you do a telephone survey or if you do a mailing survey. And statistics through regression analysis, you weed a lot of that negativity out of there. And if you do it on the website, you can get more of the people putting in more negative comments, and it can skew your survey. And that's what I've learned years ago, not by doing them, but in school. But Mr. Beach, he verifies that. Also, in what I've given the council, that they would help out with the sample. The more sophisticated you get in a survey, obviously the more expensive it is going to be. They would help with, writing the survey. They would sit down and interview me, and obviously they would interview a few council members, or council would tell me actually what they want, and they would format the survey, because you can't have a survey getting very long. It gets too long, people aren't going to do it, and you have to make it as easy as possible. And also what Mr. Beach told me, if they would do this, if this would come to pass, do it, that the surveys, if you do a mailing survey, for instance, that they would be sent back to the University of Pittsburgh instead of being sent here to the municipality, so it gives the more objectiveness of the survey. Instead of coming back here, somebody might say, well, you altered the survey results or something like that. It would go straight to the University of Pittsburgh. Also, they talk about those people that would be conducting the survey, either the interviews over phones or the survey being sent out. Talk about the data management, and as I mentioned, about mailing it back to the University of Pittsburgh. Talk about the statistical sampling. They can do a lot of different statistics on it. If you're taking a statistics class, like I said, regression analysis and things of that nature. And it depends on what you want done, and the more you have done, obviously, the more expensive it gets. Now, that is basically the overview of the two ways of going about it or doing it in conjunction. And what I wanted to do is get input from council here at the work session here, discussion and direction on which way they wanted to go in this manner.
Before they do, I have a couple comments. In the Times Express, there was a negative comment from one of our colleagues from the school board saying that, why do we want to have resident input when the tough decisions need to be made by council? The whole intent was, everybody knows that, and I think I put it out enough, I think Tim's put it out enough, that we have a budget issue going into 16. The first real big budget issue Monroeville's truly ever had. So I thought, why not hear from our residents? It's your money. You certainly have a right to hold our feet to the fire. And no matter how this council decides to do, solicit, input from the residents, at the end of the day, you're going to make the tough decisions anyway. There are going to be recommendations that come. They may send you 20 recommendations, they may send you 5. That doesn't mean you're going to accept any of them. They may not be feasible. Some may be, some may not be, just because, just like Tim said, use the recycling. You might say that's too expensive, but by state law, we have to do that. Maybe everybody doesn't know that. I just didn't think it was a bad idea to hear from you all, and I would please, council, I'm asking you to consider it, and if you choose not to, either program, I understand that, but again, I think it's good to hear from the folks we represent, and I'll leave it up.
And if I can just add one more thing, to give my recommendation to council on this, my recommendation is to go with the community survey at this point. Mr. Beach said that would take probably about 3 months. And to go with that, and then after we get some results back from that, we can go ahead with the Service Delivery Review Committee. And this really, for Monroeville, should be an ongoing process, not necessarily every year with respect to a survey, but I would say maybe every other year. That you put this thing at the least every third year. You put this into your budget, to spend maybe $5,000, $10,000 to do a survey, because I think it is money well spent to get the pulse of the community and to have the statistics to show, to help council make decisions on what's important to this community. And so that's my recommendation to council.
Well, and one more thing before I go, we leave on this, and I think, Sean, you can back me up on this, Lolly. If we don't do some changes now, within 5 years, maybe 7 years, we could actually be in Act 47, or sooner. Am I not correct in saying that, sir?
I can't predict the future, but you definitely are on the right track, absolutely.
To go to Act 47 unless we don't change the way we do business. I mean, I'm not trying to, ring a false alarm. It just is what it is. The expenses are exceeding what we're bringing in.
That's the simple part of the equation, Mayor, that we're spending more than we bring in.
And I'm going to shut up, and council, it's certainly your turn to chime in on this, and I apologize if I took too much time up.
I'd just like to add to this that I do understand exactly where we're going and what your recommendation is, but isn't that what this night is for, Citizens Night?
for people to come and tell us, and it's free. Can we set up a special venue maybe for people that don't want to sit through, don't come to these because they're afraid they're going to take too long and they don't want to sit through a whole thing? Is that an avenue that we could look at? I think you get the same results as a survey, and everybody's welcome.
This is your call.
Yeah, I'm looking for input from council.
Well, I have a comment also. Human Needs and Resource was working on a survey to ask the residents what they found was important, the things that they would need, and they wanted to have a link to the municipality's website. They sent a sample to everyone
Yes.
here on council, and they were looking to collect the data themselves. It didn't seem to me there was going to be any charge to the municipality whatsoever. So even if we work hand in hand with them to maybe change or add some of the questions onto the survey that they submitted to all of us?
And I thought of that, Linda, and you're right. My thought there, and this is my thought, is to maybe incorporate some of the questions that the Human Needs or Human Needs Resource Advisory Committee, incorporate that into what the organization at Pitt, the social research organization at Pitt. And the reason why I advocate that, Center for Social and Urban Research, the reason I advocate that is because if you have a third party doing it, or an outside party doing it, then it's more objective.
Yeah, I do.
You don't have anyone that, could allege that, well, those survey statistics are incorrect and somebody altered them and things of that nature. I just think it's more professional to do it in that direction, but.
I understand that if we have money, but since we don't have money, what if we do a trial run maybe with the Human Needs Board and see what kind of results come in, and then maybe we can expand from there if we say, well, it seems like there's a lot more going on with people that don't seem to want to come up and talk in front of us?
Can I throw this out at council? And I'm really going to go way off the board on this. We have some residents sitting here. Would anybody care to make a comment on what we're talking about?
Please. Go ahead.
Kathy, please come on up. Please don't try to, just if you can do it fairly quickly.
State your name. You could put,
State your name.
Betsy Desmond from Monroeville. You could put a flyer that all you have to pay for is the printing. They fold it, and it's free to go in to the water bill.
It's about the money.
No, I agree with you on
We're
that.
feeling I love you, Tim, but it's about the money. 5 or 10,000. Harold,
Kathy, you
I
have to state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy Seviller. I love Linda's idea. It's just about the money. We don't have any money.
Right.
And you're going to go spend $10,000 to find out what they want you to do? That's your job, people. Sorry. You go find out from your people. Who's clapping? Harold. Well, it's just that here's the problem. We have to get unified in this town. It's about unity. It's not, I love Pitt, but I'm tired of consultants. I'm tired of expensive attorneys telling us what we have to do. We know what we have to do. We have to cut the budget so Sean doesn't go into Act 47.
47.
Okay,
No acts.
let's do it. Let's do it. We have 5 years, you said, Greg, till we have to do that. We can do this ourselves. To pay someone, and here's the truth, you're just covering your decisions. You're covering your backsides for whatever decisions you make.
We need more
Then
input
you
for the
will be
residents.
whatever you say and cut, you'll go back and say, oh, well, they said that in the survey. That's how I feel.
Okay, well, that was not the intent.
Mayor,
I know that, but that's how people are going to look at
Okay,
it.
but that was never my intent anyway.
Right.
Mayor,
So it's about the money for us.
No,
as the
I'm with you on
residents.
that. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, that's fine.
The residents that called me said almost exactly what Ms. Sevilla just said, which was, I don't want anybody else making the decision. I elected you.
That's right.
And that's what you're up there for. Not that we can't take public input, but just so you know, I personally am not in favor of the survey. I'm willing to tackle the job. I think that's why it was put here. I think that's why the rest of us were put here. They don't want it to go another way, at least my residents don't, so I'm.
Well, but again, please understand, that was never my intent to give any of us, from me as you all, a scapegoat. I just thought it would be good to hear from you all, the public. Because there are going to be tough decisions made.
they can call me.
There's two choices,
Well, wait.
cut or raise taxes.
Well,
That's it.
the Human Needs and Resource Board has a link, there's phone numbers, there's all kinds of ways to get in touch with them to tell, for residents to call, they don't have to come up here and talk. They want to give their concerns or their ideas or their thoughts. And that's what that board is for, is here for the people of Monroeville to work with us without feeling like they're put in a spotlight or they have to be seen on TV or, that's what the board is there for, and no one is utilizing the board to its full extent.
The
So
problem,
I think that,
I'm good with that.
I'd also like to say that I've been contacted and told similar that we are the elected committee, so I'm in favor.
Yeah, but here's the same time I hear from seniors saying, don't raise my taxes, Mayor. I said, if we don't raise your taxes, we have to cut your services. What are you willing to give up?
What do you think, Sean?
I mean, it's that simple, folks.
Council, I don't know if you heard, but Councilman Clary asked me what I think. I think that if you have a community as good as Monroeville is and as good as it can be, I think that you have to have a sense of camaraderie, like you said, of the citizens to determine what is truly needed and wanted. There isn't endless coffers. There are no more reserves. There's nowhere to pull money from. That being said, what is the decision? Is it to accept higher rates of taxation, or is it to get rid of essential services? And yes, it is the council and mayor's decision to make those, but guidance, I don't think ever hurt anyone. I don't think that's a bad thing. And there are cheaper alternatives. There's a thing called SurveyMonkey that you literally can send to everybody's email that would sign up for it, and they can put down 9 or 10 responses to specific questions, and it gets rid of the possibility of it being altered because it goes to an off-site. And I did it in school.
that's one of the options that the Human Needs and Resource Board was looking at.
Right.
I'm just saying, let's utilize them. Why don't we go to them first before we even think of spending a penny?
No,
let me give you an example.
I agree.
Of surveys and getting responses from people that don't know the whole story. It would take you forever to tell them, which is why we're sitting up here to intervene on that. Somebody says, get rid of the garbage service. So I went out and I stopped at some Plum residents and I talked to them, and I went to Penn Hills and I talked to them, and I called some friends in Murraysville. As it turns out, at least if you go by Murraysville's bill, we're going to be paying more.
Yeah.
So
For less.
So right off the bat, their comment was, get rid of the garbage service. Because they think that's cutting $1 million out of the budget, $900,000. Is that really what you want to do? Well, I'm saying this is what you're going to get back on the survey.
Ron, you're absolutely correct. And again, I'm just going to say this. I was not looking for cover, but we are, and Kathy and I feel bad that people felt that, because that was never the intent. It was just to get feedback, because what Sean said is legitimately true. There's no more nest egg. It's raise taxes, how much you're willing, or cut, how much you're willing to give there. It's A or B. And yes, the bottom line is, these 7 folks will make that decision.
But there's other things happening here.
Harold, come up here. I'm going to break all our rules tonight, because this is important.
Please.
Harold Kotowski from Monroeville. It can be A and B. And if you look at the paperwork that Sean put together and he presented to the employees and the volunteer firemen about the history of the last 10-plus years, okay? Your previous council people, and I sat on it 12 years ago, okay? We had income and we had expenses and we had a reserve. And instead of gradually raising the taxes a little bit, there was no tax increase, bankrupted the reserve, and put you in a situation that you have now.
That's
okay?
correct.
But there is a combination of the two. Is there some things that can be, slimmed down a little bit? I mean, you've been slimming it so bad.
Oh, I agree
you're
with you.
almost to the bottom. But, then, we have to face realism of the taxes, okay? If you want your garbage service to be part of the municipal bill, and you are paying for it as a tax base, which allows you to have a tax write-off, okay, then we have to continue it. You don't just keep talking about cutting. But I have to agree with Ron and Steve and everybody. We knocked on doors, and you knocked on doors, and you have heard from the residents.
Oh, yeah.
And, Linda, which residents have told you, yes, I don't want my taxes raised, but They don't want to lose the senior citizen center, they don't want to lose,
The
you know.
dispatch center, they
Yeah,
don't
they
want
don't
their
wanna
garbage
lose all
to
that.
change, they
So
want their
now-
roads clean, yes.
So now, if the taxes are going to go up $75 this year and $50 in a couple years, a little bit here or there compared to one big increase, and you strategically plan it so people know about it, maybe, you know, you can work a long-range plan, you know, Sean, of how to do it with a combination of the two. We can't fool ourselves, but you guys are the people. We trust you. This isn't the old council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. And again, I agree. But again, it's an idea I threw out, and it's certainly your.
You know what, there is no magic genie.
There's nothing wrong.
It's the year 2015. Everything's going up in prices, and everybody wants to maintain what they have, and I certainly understand that like everybody else does. I hear from the residents just like everybody else does. They want to keep everything, and you got to understand, if you want to keep it, you got to pay for it. Unfortunately, as you said, taxes weren't raised way back when, where they could have been a little bit at a time. Well, we reached a point where you got to do something.
Thank you.
Well, we're at the crossroads, and most of the people that I've talked to, just like I saw some heads nodding out here, no way want to give up their services. And Mr. Gutowski said the answer, but the problem is we're the ones paying for the lack of everybody paying attention to this over the years, and suddenly the whole bowling ball is now sitting in our lap.
That's exactly correct.
And I don't want to get rid of any of the services, because I like the services Monroeville provides me. I'm still a resident, whether I'm sitting up here or not. And I still have a family here, and I like what, I'll tell you what, I looked at my taxes the other day on a mortgage bill, and I got to tell you, I'll pay that any day of the week. You know, don't get me wrong, maybe I'm fortunate, maybe the affordability of it, maybe some people are tighter than me, I don't know. I'm retired also, and I served the community for a long time, and I plan on being here because they gave me a good career. But the bottom line is, it's a deal. If you add up everything Monroeville gives you for that yearly tax, it's a deal. Because I went out and did that garbage survey, and there's people paying half of my taxes just for garbage.
I agree with that.
And can only
Limit.
put out 2 bags a night.
Yeah, it's limited garbage pickup.
So I got to tell you, that's what scares me about surveys and stuff. They don't ask all that and think of all that. And when a service is gone, most likely you'll never afford to bring it back again.
Right.
You know.
Council, I'll withdraw all my suggestions. That was just for your thoughts.
Mayor,
I'm okay with it.
Mayor, I don't think it's a bad idea that you came up with
Yeah,
suggestions. That's a good
No.
thing.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to help.
Yeah, we
And
commend the
I
mayor
want my
for
residents
trying to think
tell
outside the
me
box.
where
Right.
we're at. But it's about the money.
Mayor, I believe the bottom line is this, that this council will work very hard to try to find ways.
I have no doubt that's a fact. I was just,
To
again, trying to give you.
correct the
Come on up,
situation
Bob. Get up here.
and
I'm
continue
gonna
on.
let you guys talk.
It's open house.
Tonight it is.
Is there cookies?
Monroeville resident.
What kind of a millage increase would put us out of danger? I mean, just realistically.
Well, first of all, Bob,
I mean,
And I'll
I'm
let
sure you've
Sean-
looked at some
It would
things.
be
and I'll
over
let,
years, wouldn't it?
and I'll let Sean talk about this, Sean Lally, our CFO. The thing is this,
He's asking what kind of-
I don't think this council, nor I, nor Sean, wants to give the impression that Monroeville is in total dire straits. That's not, and I caution the mayor about talking about Act 47 because the press is here, and we'll be having headlines in the newspaper
They're in good
next
shape.
week.
But I didn't
that
say this year.
Monroeville is going into Act 47.
I didn't say this
okay?
year, Tim.
All right, now, right now, as
Oh my God,
I
I'm never gonna
stated.
make another suggestion.
As I stated about a year ago, this council raised taxes 1.5 mils
Yes.
in March of last year because the budget was delayed. Now, we are still in the bottom one-third of real estate tax millage as compared to the rest of the municipalities in Allegheny County. There's 132 municipalities in Allegheny County, and we're tied, I think, 34, 35 somewhere, 34, 35 lowest. We're tied. All right? So we're still, nobody wants to raise taxes. And that's what this council is is kind of trying to prevent, because they just did it last year. But we're coming into 16, and depending on how contract negotiations go with the unions, depending on how a lot of things go, projections that Sean has done, and he and I have sat down and talked about, the way expenses are continually going up, as Mr. Johns has talked about, we see going into 16 that we're either going to have to raise taxes, or we're going to have to cut services. Now, to answer your question, what puts us out of the woods? I can't definitively say, Bob, 1 mil. I can't say that, because I don't know how expenses are going this year, because you always have expenses that you just don't budget for, that they come up. We could have another Ramsey Road. I said that a year ago. We could have another Ramsey Road. There's a lot, and there's also, on the good side, we could have a windfall somewhere. So, and Sean, you can add, I'll let Sean add to this.
That's a very tough question, because anything that I have studied, anything that I have learned, a progressive taxation schedule of a set millage rate of increase every year over a period of time is more consistent than having a mass increase at one period of time. And what council said is absolutely correct. You went for so many years without having a significant tax increase, and when it came, it seemed overwhelming at the time. But that proportional tax increase is almost completely eaten up with the increase in expenditures from the 2015 budget. So of a $3.2 million surge of money based on 1 mil of taxation, we have used 2.6 million of that with the 2015 budget. That's an economic reality, and 90% of that is the cost of labor and the cost of medical benefits and the cost of insurances. The public may have a perception that the spending is on things such as services, which it definitely is, but the real culprit is the labor behind the services. That's where the increases come. And in all fairness, employees want to have increases. They want to be able to feed their family. They want to keep up with the inflation that's rising all around them. But the community has to understand that services cost money, and the reason that Tim, I, the mayor, everyone's talking about a survey is to get input, simply. There's no magic answer. I mean, do I think tax increases are a great thing? No, of course I do not. But they are a reality. It is a progressive taxation period of 10 years, a tenth of a mil a year. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that of the tax increase that we currently had, 2.6 million of it has been eaten up in this budget.
I know I don't want to lose my services. It was nice getting up this morning and my streets are clean. They've done a fantastic job. The garbage collection is done. And they pick up all kind of stuff. I mean, they really do. And the police, I mean, everybody in this municipality does one heck of a nice job. And that's why I want to live here. And like I said, I want to know if you can give me an incremented amount of taxation that you would need to get us the heck out of problem.
Any increase in revenue would have to be matched in a decrease in expenditures. The bottom line is, if you just want to maintain, you would have a proportionate increase to the amount of expenditure increase, but that's really an unsuccessful and unsustainable model. You have to decrease the amount of money going out and increase the amount of money coming in. That's the bottom line.
That's the way it is in life. I mean, you know.
I mean, that's the most simple of economic plans. In your own home, you don't buy things that you can't afford.
What I'm saying is, if you're proposing, say, to get us out of a financial problem, increasing it on a quarter millage, half a millage, whatever it is, per year, per 5 years, whatever the case may be, on a, you know, prorated type thing, rather than 2 mils, 3 mils at one shot or whatever the heck is. I mean, I think everybody is, if you hit them at a little bit at a time, as opposed to a lot at one time, everybody can take that. I mean,
I agree.
There's always a little bit left in the belt.
Problem with the survey or the committee is, I think, is it puts us between a rock and a hard place. And what I mean by that is, so the committee or the survey comes out with a suggestion. And if we go with it and it doesn't work, everybody goes, you shouldn't have listened to that stupid survey. And if you don't go with it, and it doesn't
Ron,
work.
it's
They say
off
you should have
the
listened to
table.
the survey.
It's off the table.
You know,
You win. I give up.
I think what this did, though, is it started,
He got people to start talking about
exactly, and that's.
Well,
that's
if
the good-
anything, I did get you all to start thinking and talking about it. How's that?
Thank you.
And that's the
Thank you.
good thing, because
Well,
only
you caused me
positives,
phone calls, that's for sure.
only
Well, that's
positive.
good.
Only positives can come out of continued dialogue. And through education, though, also, because a lot of people do get confused about taxes. We have a very small millage in Monroeville, but people confuse our really high school taxes. And, people do need to understand what they're getting for their buck. And, that helps everybody understand when you get into any kind of fiscal conversations, any kind of financial dealings. I would just encourage more people to come to these meetings.
Oh, I've
and
always
give
said
us their
that.
opinion.
I've always
Right.
said that. But it's off the table, folks. We good?
Let's move on.
Okay, we can
Let's
move.
move on. Thank you.
Okay,
And listen, to our residents that did come up, thank you, because
Thank you all
it's
very
good to
much.
hear from you. That's all I wanted.
I appreciate council's input on this.
It's off the table, Dan.
Okay, item number 2, Turtle Creek Valley Cog vehicle. I have been approached by Amanda Settlemeyer, the director of the Turtle Creek Valley Cog. We're having an approach. We have Cog managers meetings once a month, and they have a consortium that they're doing, starting a building inspection program, and they have 3 other municipalities, Monroeville's not one of them, that they are going to combine building inspection services, which I think is a good thing. But they need a vehicle. And Amanda Settlemeyer asked if either the municipality would, one of the old police cars that we're getting rid of, which has probably at least about 100,000 miles on it, if we would donate it to them or they could purchase it off of us. And I wanted council to weigh in on that thought.
I believe that's a great idea. It would show our support to the Turtle Creek Valley COG program as well.
What are you suggesting, Tom?
I'm sorry?
Give it to them or charge them?
I think a donation would actually be
That's what I
appropriate.
I
know
agree.
this
Yeah,
council
I think
backed-
to donate it, yeah.
We back the COG, we get a tax write-off for it.
I think you should
Get it going.
Steve, what's your thoughts?
Do we still use their services as far as like the sewer jet and, I believe they used
Yeah,
to,
oh, yeah.
it's been a while
The-
since
the-
I've.
The VAC, I mean, my understanding on that, and you know more about that than I do, Steve, is that always trying to get that when we need it.
Right.
Because of the schedule.
For an emergency,
Yeah,
it's
and-
after a
and
storm
Mike would be
event
able to-
or
Mike
whatever.
Adams.
So they do,
They
work
help
with
us, yeah.
Ron,
I'm in favor of giving it to them.
And Nick, you're okay with donation, and Linda, you
I'm
are?
definitely in favor, yes.
What I will do is I will have a motion on Tuesday's meeting to that effect. Okay, item number 3 is, we have a lot of grant rhetoric here tonight. Jan Lauer from the Allegheny County Conservation District informed me last week that the municipality, along with the school district, received we received a Growing Greener grant. And if council remembers last summer, and maybe you do or you don't, Jan Lauer was here from another person, I forget his name, from the Allegheny County Conservation District. And this has to do with the detention ponds up, they're all on school district property, Paul?
Yes,
Or
I
all of
believe
them are?
so.
I think one is on our property. It's
One's
near-
at the senior center.
Right, okay, one's at the senior center. But I'll paraphrase on an email, Jan Lauer.
Just real quick, isn't there one behind number 4 also?
Yeah.
Where it's not on school property or behind
Yeah,
number
there's
4?
two, I think there's 2.
Is that the same thing?
I believe it was the school district and the senior center.
Yeah.
Both in the same vicinity.
Maybe there's
There is
just 2.
one near number 4.
And this is just an FYI for council. The Growing Greener grant will provide $125,585 towards stormwater improvements related to the library and senior center detention pond and parking area in the road area at the intersection in front of Mosside Elementary School, where it seems to be constantly flooded. Now, our contribution to that is in-kind services from the Public Works Department, in-kind services to the effect of $16,000. So our Public Works Department is going to use a backhoe and men going up there and doing what they have to do with respect to cleaning out the detention ponds. And there's also going to be, I think they had a swale up there, a bioswale that they were going to incorporate that's going to go into the detention ponds near the park. That's part of the parking lot. So that's just an FYI for council. Most of that will be on school district property, but it is a detention pond near the Senior Citizen Center. Okay, item
Wait,
number...
16 grand is for our portion for
Yeah,
the
not in
senior center?
cash, but it's in
In-kind, but
in-kind
ours is
services.
16,000 of the 125?
Right, correct.
And that is for the senior center's issues with the flooding,
Right.
right? Okay.
Yeah, item number 4, workforce. I'm going to let Joe Sedlak, our Director of Human Resources, talk to council about that one.
Council shows some interest in bringing in a firm to handle coordinated care for our workers' compensation and short-term disability claims. We had a firm here for 17 years. They were called the Workforce, and they were here from 93 until 2010, when the council then decided to go a different route and see if we could handle it in-house. So we went out to the Workforce again, and we asked them to give us a proposal on handling the comp claims and the short-term disability claims. Now, what they do is, what happens now if there's a comp claim is, if someone gets hurt, we have a panel of physicians that they have to go to, and usually it'll be one of the urgent care facilities, either UPMC or MedExpress. And then after that, they may get referred to, say, an orthopedist, if it's like a broken finger or a knee injury. So what the Workforce does is they skip that first step. They have the contacts that they can get somebody into an orthopedist that same day. And it saves money because it shortens the time that somebody may be off. And what else they do is they stay with that claim from injury through recovery to when they come back to work. So they're there, if there's an appointment with a doctor, they're there. And they can say, well, can this individual come back to work on a modified basis, or does he need to stay off? And they're on top of things through the whole thing. It's something that I can't do. I do the best that I can because it was kind of thrown at me back in 2010. And I check on everybody that goes off and make sure they're going to the doctors, but they actually stay on top of this. So, like I said, it ends up saving money because they get back to work quicker.
And I think they have medical staff also, right? I mean, you're not a doctor, so.
Yeah, I mean, they'll go with, when they go to the appointment, they'll have the job description, and they'll say, okay, can this person do this, this, this? And right now, it seems like doctors don't like to send people back to work on modified, whether it's for whatever reason. But when someone's there with the employee, talking to the doctor, it helps them get back faster, which ends up saving us money in the long run. Because it ends up saving us on our premiums year in and year out. So in your packet, there is just a synopsis of what they do, what they charge, and then it's up to council whether they want to go with that or keep doing what we're doing.
Do we have a lot of comp claims every year?
What's that?
Do we have a lot of claims?
We don't have a lot of workers' comp claims anymore. I think I had like 1 or 2 last year. But we do have short-term disability claims, which need to be handled the same. It's a crapshoot, Paul. You know, sometimes you get a lot of claims, a lot of workers' comp, sometimes you don't. I mean, it depends. But we've been very lucky. That's why our premiums have been going down, too, on our workers' comp, because we've been doing so well the past 5 years, really, so.
But you all know, council, if you don't know, one of the big issues with the short-term disability, you know, under workers' comp, you get 66 2/3 of your pay. The municipality kicks the other 33 1/3%.
No, comp,
When did
that's all
they
they get.
stop? I'm
Comp,
sorry.
they just get the 66 2/3, that's it.
Except for
comp.
the police.
Okay, I thought one of the groups get that.
Police get,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well,
That's because of the heart and lung.
would it behoove us to come up with modified descriptions to actually give to a,
And they would help with that as well.
see, what I've experienced in the past is like a doctor may say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm in a ditch all the time or whatever, and he's going to say, well, you can't go in with a broken arm. But if he has a list of modified duties, such as, you can go in, if you're a police officer, you can go in and watch a prisoner, or,
Well, that's what their job descriptions are.
yeah, or whatever,
Yeah, they have their job descriptions.
but
out.
modified job descriptions. I know we have
Yeah.
job descriptions
I
of
mean,
each
there's,
individual.
yeah, sure, there's duties that they do, and they would.
But maybe it
be-
would serve us to come up with modified
Yes.
job descriptions.
And they will help out with us as well.
Well, Joe-
Let us do that.
The pricing on this, as far as we asked the question about how many claims do we have, we're only paying them whenever they're actively managing a claim, right?
Correct.
So if we
Correct.
don't have any claims, we're not paying them. They're not on a retainer. It's only if they're actually managing the claims.
Yes, absolutely. So
so
it's per hour, and it's a monthly basis, and, you know.
There's no minimum that they.
Nope,
Okay.
no minimum, it's.
And the cost remains the same from 2010, am I correct?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
And you found a difference from when they were here till now, as far as?
They're pretty aggressive, and I don't like to use that word, but they'll call every day and say, how you feeling? Well, I'll call maybe once a week and see how they're doing. And they'll say, okay, remember you got this appointment, and so they remind people they have appointments, hey, have you been going to the PT? So they do a nice job, they really do.
And what, as Joe said, and as Steve alluded to, one of the crux of this is that, and not that you want to, people that are injured on short-term disability or workers' comp, not that you want to rush them back to work. You don't want to do that. However, yeah, all the insurance companies, they tell you, you get your employees, back to work, and at least they can do something on modified duty, as Steve is talking about. And as Joe said, it helps your premiums. And it's a very sticky situation for somebody like Joe or myself, who's a layperson in the medical industry, that when we get a report from a physician that somebody's off with a twisted ankle, a broken arm, something like that, that they could be doing something in their department, doing some reports and paperwork that's building up. And I'm just guessing here, conjecture. Physicians, I believe, are fearful of liability themselves, of sending somebody back to work, and they don't even inquire a lot of times. I don't think, in my experience, and this is conjecture on my part, about what you do, the details of your job, and can they do something on modified duty. Workforce would do this. They would say, hey, Joe Blow, who is off here, he does dig a ditch. However, we have here in their job description, there are items here that are in the Public Works Department, just to use an example, that they can do clerical work here. And here's what we will have set up for them, and here's the environment within which they will be working on modified duty. They won't be in the garage. They won't be obviously outside. They'll be in an office setting, and, they'll have bathroom facilities right away if they need them, whatever the case might be. And that's what Workforce does.
And I asked Bruce to address the labor management
Yeah,
issue on that.
just so you know, this modified duty is really within the sole discretion of the employer. They don't have to offer modified duty. But I remember when we had Workforce, and I remember Sue saying several times it was much easier on her that she could rely on them as opposed to her getting involved in the medical details of whether or not somebody can or can't be on modified duty. So I assume both you and the management are recommending that the council do this.
Yes.
And would it be fair also to go where Steve was at? Should you, as the administration, look at some modified duties, maybe with Workforce that would be appropriate, maybe get some of their assistance on it, or maybe you already know what would be more appropriate, but I think you should have some for each department. Is that what you're looking at, Steve? don't
Well,
know
I
what
mean,
words are-
that would make sense. That way a
Yes, to me,
physician
but-
could look at it and say, hey, okay, this guy can't do this, he can't do that, but he could do this.
Is that, you guys okay with that, Tim?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm asking from council then, does council want this on the agenda for approval Tuesday?
I would say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And that would go municipal-wide, that's all unions and
Yeah.
non-union, everything.
Would there be any benefit to our healthcare fees?
What's that?
Would there be any
That's what he
benefit to
said.
our healthcare fees that we're paying?
No, this for the comp.
Okay,
and-
it's over and
yeah.
above that.
But it would be a benefit for the comp.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Next, Tim.
Okay, next item is, as Mrs. Gatos was talking about before, the Human Needs and Resource Advisory Council has given council members and myself and the mayor a packet, which I'm very impressed with myself. I think they have done a great job here on something that is needed here in Monroeville, and it talks about transportation, and I'll just paraphrase some stuff here. It says, "Please find and close the transportation resource packet as prepared by the Human Needs and Resources Advisory Council. This packet is a result of the Human Needs and Resources Advisory Board identifying transportation issues as a serious concern for residents and businesses within the municipality of Monroeville. This resource guide is a first step in understanding current Monroeville transportation options in an effort to work towards developing better solutions for the community. We ask that you review the contents for your approval of distribution and hope that you will find it be a helpful resource for the community members you represent."
May I
Sure,
stop you right
go ahead.
there? Linda, March 9th at 9 a.m. at the library, I am going to have Port Authority there as well as one of the representatives from the Human and Health Services from the county, and that's for the ministerium.
Yes.
So if you or one of the colleagues or whoever's the head of this, or both of you, could attend that, I think you would find that would be a lot of what you're talking here. I have about 15 ministers, priests, rabbis. I mean, there's a bunch of different folks from all over. They're a wonderful group, and this is what we're talking about, stuff like this.
Well, and that's great. And I forgot to mention before when we were talking about the previous board, which is off the table, but there are vacancies on the Human Needs and Resource Board for everyone that was interested in being on a Blue Ribbon Committee. Why don't you maybe be on the Human Needs and Resource Board? And then you can help implement and come up with some ideas there. Just a thought. So send your letter and resume in
But
for
again,
that.
if you can let your folks know, March
I will,
9th, 9 a.m.
because I have a meeting this month, and I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
Okay, so council, review this and let me know if you want to distribute this, put this on the website. And I would, obviously, as they're asking for you to review it, and if you get back to me with your comments, if you want anything added, changed, deleted, let me know. And Mrs. Gatos, who's a liaison to that committee.
Next.
Okay, the last item I have here is what's called Barks and Brews. Council has on the last page of their packet, they have, there you go. Put that on the eye in the sky.
Put it on the eye of sky there, Tom.
Put it in the eye in the sky, or give it to Bob.
Oh, on the front, okay.
Up until about 10 days ago, as I've mentioned to several council members, if not all of council, I didn't know anything about this. And Dara Brown, my secretary, brought this in.
Joe, can you put that on the eye of sky?
And she got it from Mr. Wilson. And to make a long story short, we didn't even know Barks and Brews was doing this. Well, I spoke to Mr. J.C., I forget his last name, who runs Barks and Brews, and what they are doing for the benefit of the animal shelter is they are conducting a fundraiser. It'll be on Thursday, February the 19th from 7 to 9 p.m., and tickets are $15. And the proceeds benefit the Monroeville Animal Shelter. They have done this with other municipalities. One in particular, my understanding is they did it with White Oak. And not only that, they do donate food to different animal shelters if they, need food. And I went down and I talked to J.C. today, and I told him I would be bringing this up publicly and giving council's blessing, and if council's okay with this, it'll continue to move on. I don't think a motion needs to be done or anything like that. I just want council to know about it.
Tim, this is the old Advanced Auto that is
Correct.
now the dog stop on Old William Penn Highway?
Correct.
On Old William Penn Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the gist of that? What do you do? Go drink beer and take your dog?
Play with your dog.
You bring your dog and drink.
Paul, they mean dogs, not that dog, the animal you have. That's like a horse.
Oh, I'm bringing my dog.
Ooh.
Look at that, Jim Beam's going to be there. Greg, you know Jim, don't you?
One thing I do want to mention, as I mentioned to the JC who runs, if anybody's going to donate.
Thank you, Ron.
If anybody's going to donate with a check at this event, or if anybody at all is going to donate a check for the animal shelter, make it out to the Monroeville Foundation. Do not make it out to the Monroeville Animal Shelter. Do not make it out to the municipality of Monroeville. Make it out to the Monroeville Foundation, because that's the way the money is going to be funneled to the
Well, it's
animal
also a
shelter.
tax benefit.
Yeah, and because they are a 501(c), the foundation. Okay? If nobody has any question, that concludes my report.
Hallelujah. All righty. Pat, I know you wanted to come up and say, folks, before we get to our report, our tax collector has a couple of comments he'd like to make. Since I broke all the rules, one more won't hurt.
I want to let council know that I have appointed as my deputy tax collector Doug Carmenel. And what the new law reads is that I have to announce this at this meeting. And I nominated him. I thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to reports from council. We're going to start with you, Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to Sean Logan, who's been appointed chairman of the Turnpike Commission. Thanks to our police force for the quick action in the purse snatching case. And Public Works, you did a terrific job with the snow removal. Thanks again. That's all for me.
Steve.
I agree with what he said. And
Is that it?
No, one other thing. Does anybody up here know of an update on the Pitcairn Road scenario?
Yeah, I gave it to
Anybody?
you last time, and it's not going to happen.
At all? I mean, we're just going to do away with that road?
No, what Fitzgerald said, and I'll be upfront with you, when they can get the funding together, they will approach us, but they have money issues as well, so it's not off the table, but it's not on the table right now.
I mean, they're not giving us any,
No time frame.
there's no cheaper way of doing this, or? I know that they put $2 million in up above, up at Tilbrook and and from the Tilbrook to Stroshine portion, they just put $2 million in to reopen that portion. And now having the lower, it's almost like they didn't need to do that if we're going to have the road.
Well, again, and he had his folks review it. I'm talking about his engineers and his group, and there's
It's
just.
such a hardship for those
Yeah,
people.
well, it certainly is a hardship for everybody, so. If I
I know
hear
it's
other.
not my ward.
No, no, but it's our problem.
I would like to remind everybody, though, that our Public Works Department came up with a solution to the
Yes,
issue.
it did.
And they
And it
didn't
was
like that
rejected.
solution.
Right, and it was rejected by the county.
That's fact. That's a fact. Anything else, Steve?
No.
What can we
I'm
do?
just frustrated with it.
Right now, there's not a whole
I haven't
lot.
seen any movement in that hill in the past year.
If, just for the record,
Zero.
Mike Adams, our superintendent, has watched that prior to that, when we met with them for one solid year, and nothing dropped, nothing moved. As a matter of fact, we cleaned some of the stuff that would be an issue out at no cost.
And one of the
to company.
temporary fixes were to put Jersey barriers at the base.
That is correct.
In case there was a slide. And that would have been a relative, there's actually the barriers there now closing the road if those barriers were put on an angle, but for some reason, their engineering department didn't.
They will not approve it. And
We-
Rich Whitten with his
Did our
staff.
engineering department, well, we have nothing to do with it, so.
Paul,
That's
you
all
know,
I
we
have.
we suggested that, did we not?
Yeah, we have no say-so in that.
That's all I have, thank you.
Yeah, we really don't, Steve. I wish we did too. Paul?
Tom kind of did steal all the thunder tonight, thanks, Tom, but I did want to thank everybody for their input, and I just wanted to encourage everybody to educate themselves. We are going into some financially hard times here. Educate yourself, come to the meetings, ask us questions, give us your opinion. Let's not let this conversation go away in the 1 hour that we had it. And with that, I'm done.
Jim?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. As everybody knows, Monroeville puts on a rather spectacular 4th of July parade every year. This year will be no exception. I'd like to thank some of the folks that were on the committee that are decided to move on. And I'd like to thank Mr. Estock and his staff for getting involved at Parks and Rec and all the new people that are getting involved in the committee. And I promise you this, they talked me into being the chairman. I didn't want to do it, but I'm there. got some good help.
Good.
And it's going to be a great parade this year, I promise you.
And fireworks.
And fireworks, yes. And
We're riding on my motorcycle, you and I.
well, I don't want to go there.
Stevie and Jimmy.
The Monroeville Convention Center. The home show is going on February 6th through the 8th. The Greensburg Train and Toy Show is February 14th and 15th. Steel City Kitties, I always get teased about this one, February 14th and 15th. The Allegheny Sport and Outdoor Show is going on the 18th of February through the 22nd. Tri-State Alternative Fueling Expo, February 24th through the 26th. Pittsburgh Fire and Rescue and EMS, Saturday, February 28th, and Sunday, March 1st. Here's the one for all the guys, the golf show, Friday, March 13th through the 15th. With that, I am done.
Thank you, sir. Ron?
Just, most of you probably heard of the tragic fire on Hillsdale Drive. Just wanted to tell you that I was not there, but I listened, and so I called to get the stats, and what I wanted to tell you was that call came in at 33 minutes after midnight. Our fire units were on scene 7 minutes later and had that person removed from the house 4 minutes after that. Unfortunately, that wasn't good enough. But they did tremendous work. My condolences to the family who recently lost a loved one on that fire. And in addition, I wanted to tell you that during that whole incident, Pitcairn Fire Department sent mutual aid help to the scene of the call. Unity Fire Company from Plumbur sent a unit to stand by in Station 5 to cover our district. Holiday Park sent a unit to Station 4 to cover their district. And United Volunteer Fire Department sent a unit to Station 3. So we're back to that mutual aid thing. Also, my condolences go out to the family who lost a loved one on the CO poisoning on Blueberry Drive. That was a tragic loss. And through both these incidents, I can tell you that meeting with the Allegheny County Fire Marshal's Office encourages all of you, everybody, to please update your smoke detectors in your house. They make combination CO smoke detectors, and they highly recommend that you go to them. They're out there. So if you've had a smoke detector in your house for any length of time, you probably should replace it. And then this one is kind of a question that I don't know the answer to, and I'm looking to you guys. Is there anything the municipality can do to assist the residents who live on the so-called paper streets that the snow and ice has built up so much that, quite frankly, I drove by one Maple Crest Lane off Logan's Ferry. I don't think I can get my emergency vehicles in there. And there's more than one resident. There's 6, 7 residents that live back there. And that's not the only one. This happens to be the one in question right now. I don't know.
Tom, or Ron, I'd like to offer, I'm sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
Well, you pose an interesting question. And this is kind of a balancing test. I believe that if you've got that many residents that are being supported by this roadway, notwithstanding the fact that it may not have been formally dedicated to you, I would venture to say I bet that in the past we've maintained it. And it starts to take on a public character. I think you're hard-pressed. These people pay taxes just like everybody else, notwithstanding it's still a private street. What are we talking about, one swipe?
Yeah, in and back out.
Well, I mean, I think that you should give your Public Works Department some direction to do that kind of thing. Knowing full well, once you start, you have to continue, but what do you say? I mean,
I don't know. That's,
Well, to me, I think that you use the practical approach, and that is.
Is it possible in an emergency scenario
Sure.
like this that you could get them to sign
Yeah.
off on?
You could.
I mean, I don't know exactly.
I don't
what
want
road
to pave the street or stripe it or curb it or,
One of the problems is if it's dirt, let's say, or stone, you can't
Gravel.
go in and salt it to get rid of the ice. And a plow's just going to bump up over the ice.
Yeah.
So they could cinder it.
even that.
I'd throw out a recommendation to you too, Tom, because I live on one of those paper streets.
Tom.
And there are 6
That's not
houses.
Tom, that's Ron.
Oh, that's Ron.
Sorry,
Tom
Tom,
over there.
Ron.
You were close.
Hey, Jimmy.
I must have put a shot in.
And we actually, me and the other 5 families, we entered into our own agreement on how we were going to maintain that road.
Oh.
Our road. That's a possibility. I like Bruce's idea better.
Well, I mean, I
that's
just
a
think,
possibility for you if they all got together and just entered into an agreement.
Like Steve said, just, if they just made it past Salt and Cindering it, I think they could exit. I don't know, again, I don't know if emergency vehicles would have a very easy time getting in some of these.
I think
well,
you got
that
your-
starts the police power, and when you start that, I think you have a right to go in and correct the problem. Because if people are in danger, that concerns me.
Well, my question is, how many, and Steve, you might be able to weigh on, and Ron too, how many of these roads do we have approximately in the municipality?
Is that right?
Because as Mr. Caleri is saying, they entered into agreement, and in my experience, that's what usually is done. Now, notwithstanding that, as the old saying goes, if you have put a public vehicle on something, you just bought it. There's that.
I mean, typically, if a neighborhood's developed, the road is developed along with
Well,
it.
it's
And then
built to our
it's
specs.
brought to our specs and our
Right.
standards.
Right.
On these occasions, I believe there were homes that were built, private
Sure.
driveways or roads and just extended. So I don't know what approach you take at it.
Well, the other thing is you could also enter into some sort of, as you mentioned, some simple document that says, that they all sign off on, that they say that it limits what that you're going to do. You're not going to do any garbage pickup, you're not going to do any maintenance of the road, you're not going to do anything other than to create a safe environment from time to time when it snows heavy.
I think that's the most prudent way of doing
Yeah.
that.
I believe we do garbage pickup on a few of them.
Yeah, they have to
That's
bring
the
it out
case.
to Logan's Ferry.
Oh, is that right?
Get the
Yeah.
homeowner to sign off indicating
Not on
that's
mine.
all there's going to be.
Well, I can live with that.
I take mine to the
That's all they want.
Maybe also too, I mean,
Sell and move to
something we can start with is maybe
like mine.
obviously identifying everything and mapping things out and how many houses are on these streets and compiling a list of them.
Maybe sending a letter to each of the residents on those streets to sign off on, or,
Just trying to get them some
Something.
help to get in and
Yeah.
out.
Right.
It does make
Nothing
sense.
else.
Have you talked to Mike Adams about this?
Yeah, and he backed up and threw up his bulletproof shield as fast as he
Okay.
could because he didn't know where
We
were.
stood. And I think what you ought to do is go to him and say, he's probably got the contacts with these people. Get the lists,
I don't
get the
blame him.
names, get the addresses, and we'll put something together.
Yeah, I got an email from one of the residents on the road.
Well, is it safe to say, folks, like what Bruce suggested, maybe get into a very easy agreement?
Yeah.
That from time to time, we will, make the road safe, and maybe, like Steve suggested, throw cinders down, since they can't really do much more than that.
I mean, if you have to get an emergency vehicle in there, we have to do
you
something.
have to be
Yeah,
able to.
I mean, that's,
Correct.
I agree with that, so.
Life or death, yeah.
Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Can you
Mayor,
get somebody,
Bruce, can you draw, go ahead. Peter,
Mayor, we
sorry.
can give you a map with that information.
can you
Would
get
you do
somebody
that?
down my
Give
lane?
that to Tim, and
No,
then
no,
you can-
it's a little slippery.
But Bruce,
I said
did
we
you
get
draw
you
up
a map,
something
but I
simple?
can.
Okay, hey, folks, Bruce is gonna draw up a simple agreement, whatever, and.
There.
And if there's 2 or 3 or 4 other roads, then we'll just use that throughout.
Now, is there going to be a threshold to what we determine is going to be? Is it
Going to be
3
within our
houses,
sole
5
discretion.
houses? Is
It's
it,
going to be within, all the discretion is going to be within the Public Works Department as to whether or not a situation exists that requires them to go in there and do a pass, given the amount of snow that's fallen. Something like that where it's going to be a little bit detailed about, again, leaving the discretion within the Public Works Department, indicating that this is not an attempt by the municipality to take over the road. The road remains private, things like that.
understood.
Anything else, Ron?
Just one, I don't know how, if any of you or all of you noticed how fast our police department caught the purse snatching people from the Giant Eagle, but,
I agree.
and that's it.
Nick?
Yes, just to follow up with what Mr. Caleri mentioned earlier, I mean, we encourage residents to give us feedback and input, whether it's in this forum. However, I mean, it is televised and can be intimidating, but, certainly, we're all approachable by telephone and by email, so please be in touch with your council people and give us input. And along the same lines, Mayor got a little beat up with the Service Delivery Committee, however.
It was fun.
I commend him for, trying to come up with some ideas, and that's what it's all about, throwing ideas out there and trying to figure out solutions to these problems.
I appreciate that, Kath. I'm sorry, Nick.
That's okay, that's okay. Tip of the hat to the police department was mentioned, and condolences to the family of the Hillsdale fire victim. True tragedy, so our thoughts and prayers are with the family. And that's all I have for this evening.
Linda?
I mean, to reiterate a lot of what was said tonight, condolences to the family from the fire as well as from the gentleman that passed away with the CO in his home. Also, Public Works, thank you for the great job you're doing for our residents. The roads, it's been a terrible January, and you guys have done a fantastic job, so kudos to you. And once again, to our police department, we've seen how fast that purse snatching happened, and then how fast they were caught, and yay. I think we're doing a great job on that. And again, the Human Needs and Resource Board is away. Our emails, our phones, come up here and speak. Let's keep this going. I think we all really we'd love to do the interaction. We'd love to hear the ideas. We just don't think that committee's the way to go. So, and with that, that's all I have.
I'll be very brief as well. It was fun getting beat up. I enjoyed it by my colleagues and my friends. But the good news is, it was good discussion, and maybe we do have another venue that we can go, and that's on a serious note. Congratulations to Sean, my dear friend, on being the chairman of the Turnpike.
Good job, Sean.
He'll do a very good job, I'm sure he will. And condolences to both of the families, certainly. And I think it's been set up here enough, but I'm going to say it again anyway. To our police, our fire, our road department, you just don't find any better than what we have. And I appreciate their efforts, and I know they'll do a good job come the future, and as they do every day. And with that, do we have an executive session?
I don't have anything.
Good. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.